let's talk about an overall timeline for what happens when you don't make payments on your mortgage. And people come to me all the time after missing a payment or two, and they're like, all right, so when are they going to come to take my house? You know, when do I have to give them the keys? Well, fortunately, it doesn't work that way in Florida. We have what we call a judicial foreclosure in Florida, which means that has to go through the court system. There are other states like Georgia, for instance, where the attorney does the foreclosure. There's no real proceedings. Well, you're gone. So in Florida, though, there's a long procedure for taking your house from you. And many times, that actually gives you the power, again, to do something. Just because you go into the foreclosure doesn't mean it's over. And we're going to talk a lot about that, okay? But let's say just what happens, all right? This is generally, all right? This varies a bit, but just in general. Now, over the past 6 months to 12 months, this changed quite a bit, this timeline, because there was such a backlog of cases that we'd see people go a year of non-payment before they actually even filed a lawsuit against it for the foreclosure, which was amazing. But they're kind of getting back in the swing of things again. And so this is getting back to more of the normal timeline. The first 3 months of non-payment. First month, you get the calls, you get some letters. They're usually pretty nice. Hey, our payments must have missed in the mail. Come on, just, make your payment. Second month, you need to make your payment. And the third month is usually make your payment or we're taking your house. And there's what's called an acceleration letter that you'll get typically from the attorneys that says, we're accelerating your loan, which means that all of it's due right now. If you don't pay everything right now, we're going to foreclose on you, okay? When you get that letter, you know it's coming. You're getting there. Month 4, generally, this is when the foreclosure company will file the complaint of foreclosure. And this is just the start, okay? And then you'll get served. You have a nice process server or some sheriff come in uniform to your house and hand you the complaint, and you lose it. If you're not there yet, but it's coming, it's okay. It's all right. It's just the beginning. It's just an invitation to the dance, all right? It's not the end. And again, people come to me, I got the foreclosure, I'm moving out. No, stay in the house, okay? It's just the very beginning. And you may have a year, depending on what we do, okay? So don't just walk away from the house because you get a foreclosure complaint. You have generally 20 to 30 days to answer the foreclosure. And the answer, what I call, is a responsive pleading. Not necessarily an answer. Very often could be a motion to dismiss because they've done bad things in their complaint, which I'm going to talk about. But some type of responsive pleading. If you don't do that, the clerk will issue what's called a default, which means that you didn't answer, you didn't participate, now you don't get to. And they can just keep moving forward without you. And that's a problem. And again, many of my clients will come to me months and months after the default is entered, and now they decide, I better do something about this, and then that is a problem, because I have to go back and convince the judge to, Judge, they didn't know what they were doing, let's get the default lifted, let's get in the game. And sometimes I can do that, sometimes I can't, depending on how bad the situation is. All right, but please file something. You know what it could be? It could be a little letter. You could say, hey, I can't pay my mortgage right now, but I'd really like to. Can I work it out? They will treat that as a responsive pleading and get you into the game, okay? Now, that's not necessarily the best way, but if you're not going to do anything else, at least do that, okay? Let's go on to the next slide. Month 6. Typically, the mortgage company will file what's called a motion for summary judgment. Now, this is month 6 of non-payment, all right? Probably the first month or so of the foreclosure complaint. Motion for summary judgment. What that means is that there's no dispute of fact, which means that you were supposed to make the payments and you didn't, and so we have a right to take your house from you. That's what they're saying. And what they're saying is there's no point in having a trial on this. We don't have to go to a judge or a jury. We get it back. We win just because. And that's how 95% of the foreclosures end up. It goes through on summary judgment. No one fights it. It goes on. You lose your house. All right, so that's that document. In month 7 is when the hearing is held on the motion for summary judgment, typically, and that's when the judge issues a judgment of foreclosure, which means that, yes, I agree with you, generally because no one participated, But I agree, so you must be right, because no one participated. You get a judgment of foreclosure, mortgage company, now you have a right to sell the house. Generally, it takes another 30 days after that, month 8, when they have the foreclosure sale. They have to publish it in the paper for 2 weeks, and so normally they'll set it for 30 days after the hearing on the motion for summary judgment for the sale, okay? So, in general, 8 months of non-payment gets you kicked out of the house. After the sale, normally within a week, if you're still in the house, the sheriff will show up with a 24-hour eviction notice, get out, okay? That's what happens if you don't do anything. So even if you don't do anything, you have at least 8 months, and maybe longer, depending on how slow the process is running, okay?